This video is intended to discuss how to create the logical and interactive Gantt chart including program developing process and source code. The Gantt chart we are discussing is the quality comparable to Primavera or MS Project. Logical Gantt chart quality is achieved through critical path analysis. An interactive feature is implemented using Excel's event procedures. User interface is based on Custom RibbonX User interface. The program is developed using Excel VB programming language and finally is converted into Excel Addin program. We are discussing entire process to develop an Excel Addin from scratch, Gantt chart. You can download the Excel Addin program for your easy reference to this discussion. Visit URL. We go with 14 steps. 1. Create a new workbook for programming. 2. Customize Visual Basic Editor and custom functions and procedures. 3. Create worksheets for Gantt chart, calendar, Gantt chart with 3 tiers timeline, progress. 4. Update calendar to project plan. 5. Set up the basis of schedule. 6. Scheduling data input using Userform. 7. Scheduling data input on worksheet. 8. Critical path analysis. 9. Generate schedule bar and connectors. 10. Project progress monitoring using Userform. 11. Progress recording on the worksheet. 12. RibbonX Custom User Interface. 13. Callback Procedure tied to RibbonX Custom UI. 14. Converting .xlsm into Excel Addins.xlam. This section discusses general procedure. Create a new macro-enabled workbook for programming. Customize the ribbon and quick access toolbar to facilitate programming. Start the Microsoft Excel of 2007 and later. Create a new workbook for programming. Give a title and description for the program. Go to File, select Info, Properties with Advanced Properties. Give short description in the title box for your program. Give long description in the comments box. Save .xlsx file as .xlsm file, macro enabled. For the programming purpose, add the Developer tab by using the Customize Ribbon tab of the Excel Options dialog box. In addition, adding View Code Control on Quick Access toolbar will help you view Visual Basic Editor easily. If the Developer tab isn't on the ribbon, add it on the ribbon. Go to File, select Options. On the Option dialog, select Customize Ribbon. At the right pane, check the checkbox for Developer. Now Developer tab is on. I would like to recommend a fastest way to open Visual Basic Editor, that is to add the View Code Control on Quick Access toolbar. Go to File, select Options. On the Option dialog, select Quick Access toolbar. At the left pane, locate View Code Control and add it to the right pane. Now View Code Control is added on the Quick Access toolbar. You can click it to go to Visual Basic Editor. Section 2 discusses how to customize Visual Basic Editor. Custom functions and procedures which are called frequently by main procedures and are modularized. To facilitate your coding, add edit, debug, and Userform controls to standard toolbar. Go to View, select Toolbar and click Edit, Debug, and Userform one after another. This section discusses custom functions and procedures, frequently called at the runtime of your program. For instance, regional date format. Check if an array is allocated. Bubble sort, one dimension and multi-dimension array. Weekly cutoff date. List validation. Check if a particular shape is existing. Check if a user form is active. Function date format procedure returns regional date format taking advantage of window API function getLocalInfo and getUserDefault LCID. The Windows API is a set of functions available to Windows programmers. When you call a Windows function from VBA, you're accessing the Windows API. Before you can use a Windows API function, you must declare the function at the top of your code module. Application.international property is used to distinguish one with other, 0 for USA, 1 for Australia, 2 for Far East. Whether array is allocated or not should be checked before we use array properties such as ubound. If you use ubound property for the array which is not allocated, an error is encountered. Thus it is necessary to check whether your array is allocated or not before you use the array, either static or dynamic. The function cp workday, start date, period, returns end date in the period from start date, taking account of weekend and project holidays when calculating activities end date. Start date also will be one of working date using the same function. The arrays myhol and non-work weekday are based on project calendar and declared as public variable. The function measured procedure, myList, finds unique items, and then reorder the unique items in the ascending order, taking advantage of the bubble sort algorithm. The function measured procedure _2, myList, reorders, list items of key index in the ascending order, taking advantage of the bubble sort algorithm. All dates are needed to be converted to weekly cut-off date to facilitate your weekly reporting. The function uses weekday function returning the day of the week corresponding to a date. The day is given as an integer, ranging from 1, Sunday, to 7, Saturday. This is used to return the weekly cut-off date of given date. You can use data validation to restrict the type of data or the values that users enter into a cell. One of the most common data validation tool is to create a drop-down list. Validation type is of XL validate list with array as its formula. The array list is a string consisting of elements separated by comma. You might require that the user form be closed only by clicking a particular command button. When you need some actions to be taken, for example, record the latest data on the user form, before unloading a user form, then close button, the X in the upper right corner, should not unload the form. Returns true if a shape name exists on the active worksheet. Return true if a user form named UFNME is active. This section discusses: add new worksheets one by one, sheets predefined format, initial data on the worksheet. 3 worksheets for Gantt chart are concerned: calendar, Gantt chart with 3 tiers, timeline, progress. The first thing we need to do is create worksheets for Gantt chart. Project calendar worksheet, scheduling worksheet with timeline, progress entry worksheet. The first data is project calendar, defining working hours and project non-working days. Project calendar format is same as Primavera calendar data as converted from Primavera XER file. This defines project working and non-work days and incorporates into schedule analysis. Initially, Sunday is taken as non-work day, as day of week type, and December 25th is bank holiday, as exception type. It is necessary to complete the project calendar if the Gantt chart is to represent project schedule accurately. On error, resume next statement allows to run without the error message. Trap the error using the number property of error. If error is equal to anything other than 0, an error occurred, which means that the worksheet does not exist. Then add a working using the method worksheets.add. VBA's array function is used to simplify the coding. Drop-down list days of week, exceptions is entered so that other than the 2 elements are not permitted to enter. Scheduling worksheet called Gantt chart is created. The scheduling template comprises data columns and timeline to draw schedule bars and relationship. Gantt chart comprises 4 groups of project information and timeline. 1. Common schedule data. Activity ID, description, predecessor, period, start, finish, late start, late end, float, and time lag, logic. 2. Constrained schedule. Set date. 3. Work package. Class, and work package. 4. Progress and resource. Start, end, planned hours, and earned hours. The timeline is composed of 3 tiers: year, month, week, and date. Weekly report cut-off day and non-working days are highlighted at middle and at bottom, respectively. Schedule elements procedure is a preceding procedure with elm1 to elm17 as public variables. The public variables are read by the procedure Gantt format. Gantt format calls the procedure sch template to add timeline discussing next. Arguments schcol, start date, and end date are public variables and are returned from another preceding procedure, discussed in the basis of schedule. Timeline data is stored in myCalendar array. And then the array data is written on the worksheet. Date and time methods are used. Date serial method to convert the date to month end date. Date diff method to return the number of months between 2 different dates. Locate column number for the first day and end day of each month at top tier and columns of each month are merged. Highlight weekly cut-off day at the middle and holidays at the bottom on the timeline. Progress worksheet is to record daily earned hours by work package. Progress worksheet consists of 2 parts. 1. Day progress entry part, date, work package, earned hours, and activity ID. 2. Reference part of latest data of the activity ID, description, plan start, plan finish, planned value, earliest act start end, cumulative actual. VBA's array function is used to simplify the coding. Without array function, you need to write multiple lines of code. Section 4 is discussing project calendar update. Update calendar in line with project plan. The update is made directly on the worksheet. The updated project calendar is the basis of the Gantt chart, including critical path analysis. Calendar worksheet should be updated in line with project requirement. The update is made directly on the worksheet. The updated project calendar is the basis of the Gantt chart, including critical path analysis. The project calendar data is read and stored in public variable for further use at the runtime. Calendar worksheet should be updated according to project requirement. As far as days of week in type is concerned, Sunday is non-work day and work hours for the rest weekdays are 8 hours by default. You need to update according to project plan. The exceptions in type represents project holidays. Christmas Day is one of exceptions. You need to include all the other exceptions. For the data validation purpose, column B is listed down with days of week and exceptions. You need to choose one from the list down in cells of column B. Read the updated calendar data. Holidays, type being exceptions, are stored in myHol array. Weekends, type being days of week, are stored in myNonWeekday array. The arrays are public variables and referenced in another procedures. Section 5 discusses regarding BOS. Initial data setup. Keep the data for next session. Read the last session's data. Update the timeline to match with new basis. Section 5 discusses how to set up primary data for Gantt chart program, for example. Project start date and end date. Weekly cutoff day. Color code for bar, critical and non-critical, progress bar, and milestone. These form the basis of schedule. Setting up the schedule basis goes. Initial data setup. Keep the data for next session. Read the last session's data. Update the data using a Userform. Userform for schedule basis. 2 text boxes for start and end date. 3 option buttons to choose one weekly cutoff day. 5 spin buttons to select color indexes, 1 to 56. 1 label displaying headings of Gantt chart data table. 2 command buttons, one for triggering action and another for unloading Userform. The very initial schedule basis data are written to a worksheet of Excel Addin. Start date, 2 months before today's date. End date 1 year after today's date. Weekly cutoff day, Friday. Color. Critical activity schedule bar red. Non-critical activity schedule bar green. Late schedule bar gray. Milestone diamond magenta. Progress bar yellow. Read data of last session which are stored in a worksheet of Addin. The data have been written in a worksheet of Addin before unloading the Userform. Userform is preloaded by referring to the worksheet of Addin. The Userform is modeless, allowing you to work with Excel worksheet, while the Userform is active. Define data for Userform controls. Each data as entered is checked and goes through validation. Once validated successfully, OK button is enabled to trigger the intended action. Basis Userform is for public variable data update to be referred to by the following procedures. New timeline of Gantt chart. Start date in text box 1 and end date in text box 2 should be of date value. One of 3 option buttons should be selected for weekly cutoff day. If new start date or new end date are different from timeline start date or end date, then current timeline should be updated by pressing OK button. Change in spin button is accompanied with change in its background color. The procedure update controls is the procedure programmed for input data validation and is responsible for enabling or disabling OK button. Press OK button when it is enabled to capture new changes and update existing timeline. The updated data become new basis of program implementation, are written in a worksheet which will be a part of Addin for next session. The OK button is enabled when changes are made in start date, end date, or weekly cut-off day, and when new start date or end date are different from those of the old timeline. Timeline update is triggered by pressing OK button on UF basis. Section 6 discusses schedule data build-up using a user form. Take one of three different procedures: first schedule, resume schedule, continue schedule. Input to user form controls are validated to enable OK button. Schedule bar and connectors for a single activity are drawn. Schedule data input are made either using dialog box or directly on the worksheet. This section, Section 6, discusses how to progress with schedule data entry using a user form interactively and in user-friendly way. Next section, Section 7, discusses schedule data entry directly on the worksheet. User form shows up when press an icon scheduling on the ribbon or double-click a cell of the row you want to enter schedule data along. Rendering schedule bar and dependence relationship are made interactively and instantaneously once data is entered prove valid and complete. This is established by pressing OK button on the user form. 4 groups of schedule elements are laid out on a user form. Group 1, Activity Details. Activity, period, start date, finish date, constrained date, planned hours. Group 2, Relationship. Predecessors, relationship, time lag, predecessor list, successor list. Group 3, Work Package. Class, Work Package. Group 4, Progress. Actual start date, actual end date, earned hours. 3 command buttons are included. OK button to populate worksheet and create schedule bar. Close button to unload the user form. Delete selected predecessor button to delete predecessor as selected. Section 6.3 discusses a collection procedure of the data to be loaded to user form. 1. Read schedule data and store the read data in arrays for further use of the data. To do so, call RibbonX procedure to read schedule data table of Gantt chart. 2. Depending on the progress of scheduling work, take one of 3 different procedures. First schedule. This procedure is applicable to beginning of new schedule. Resume schedule. This procedure is to review or revise already defined activities. Continue schedule. This procedure is to add a new activity to current schedule data. 3. User form is loaded and displayed. 4. All events on the Gantt chart worksheet should be disabled while working with user form to prevent from clash. My schedule reset procedure is called to this end. Procedure first schedule is applicable to starting a new schedule. User form starts with no data loaded. The first row, row 4, of Gantt chart is selected. Resume schedule procedure is to load user form with the selected activity data. Schedule data table are read by RibbonX procedure and stored in array MyAct when user form is loaded. Based on the array MyAct, procedure resume schedule populates user form controls with selected activity data and sorted list. My ID represents list of all activities on Gantt chart worksheet. Cell act represents activity ID of selected activity. Pred list, list of selected activities predecessors. SUC list, list of selected activities successors. My class array represents the list of classes. My category array represents the list of work packages. Continue schedule is for the new added activity. The continue schedule is applicable to adding a new activity. No specific value to controls is needed. Combo boxes are loaded with current activities data such as ID list, class list, and work package list. One row below bottom row is selected. The subsection 6.4 discusses validation of entered data and readiness for action intended by the user form. The first thing to do is to ensure the validity of data as entered, date data, numeric data, and so on. Need to ensure to define minimum prerequisite schedule data. Activity, period, predecessors, as required, and start date. Once minimum prerequisite are defined and validated, it is ready to populate schedule data on the Gantt chart worksheet and to draw preliminary schedule bar and dependence relationship instantaneously. Activity ID is changed by choosing combo box 1 value. All controls on the user form are updated by calling refresh procedure. Text box values are to be valid in terms of correctness of data type, numeric or date. When a predecessor for the activity is defined in combo box 11, predecessor list is called to list predecessor details in the list box 2 and list successor details in the list box 3. If you need to remove predecessor, double-click the predecessor in the list box followed by pressing Command button 4, delete selected predecessor. List box control takes advantage of add item method, remove item method, and list index property to determine which item is selected. Date data and number data are validated. Activity should not be its own predecessor. OK button, command button 1, is enabled only when all the data are validated. Press OK button. Data on user form is stored in new act array. New act array data is passed to procedure update SCH table as an argument. Then write the data on the worksheet and draw schedule bar and connectors. Section 7 discusses how to build up schedule on the worksheet directly. Insert a class module writing event procedures in it. Schedule bar and connectors for a single activity are drawn interactively on the Gantt chart. This section, Section 7, discusses direct schedule data input on the worksheet. You can create schedule bar and connector interactively. To enable the worksheet to be interactive, the worksheet event procedures are required. The code for a worksheet event must be stored in the code module for the specific worksheet. Alternatively, if a class module is inserted to contain the event procedures, you don't have to create the code module for the Gantt chart worksheet. A class module can handle events of objects not exposed by Excel. The program is based on the class module. Insert a new class module. To set a name for this class module in the Properties window, MySchedule class. 3. In the class module, declare a public worksheet object with your object name, for example, MySheet, by using the with events keyword. Public with events MySheet as worksheet. 4. Declare the class module in the general section of standard module in order to instantiate the class module as an object. Dim MySchc as new MySchedule class. 5. Link a worksheet object with the class module object. Sub MySchedule set. Set MySchc.MySheet equals active workbook.worksheets, Gantt chart. End sub. 6. Call the procedure MyScheduleSet when you need to activate the event procedures contained in the class module. 7. Create worksheet event procedures that you'll use to refer to the declared worksheet object in the class module. 7-1. Double-click event procedure sub MySheet before double-click. Trigger scheduling user form to show up by calling a sub UF schedule. 7-2. Change event procedure sub MySheet change. Once the entered data are good to generate schedule bar and relation connector by calling single act draw. Schedule bar and connectors are drawn via sub single act draw instantaneously when input data are complete enough. Draw early schedule bar. Draw relationship connection. Draw diamond for constrained start date. Section 8 discusses how to implement critical path analysis. Pre-process schedule data. Validate data. Forward pass calculation for early schedule. Backward pass calculation for late schedule. Identify critical activities. A critical path is determined by identifying the longest stretch of dependent activities and measuring the time required to complete them from start to finish. The criticality of activities are defined based on each activity's float or slack calculation. The float is computed by comparing the earliest date and the latest schedule of the same activity. The activities featured with zero float are considered as critical activities. The earliest start date of an activity is equal to the latest early finish date of its predecessors. Early schedule is calculated along forward pass through the schedule. The latest finish date of an activity is equal to the earliest late start date of its successors. Late schedule is calculated along backward pass through the schedule, starting from the final activity. Store schedule data in an array, all data, and parse the array data to make tangible data array myact. The myact array expands schedule data to append discrete predecessor and successor details to all data array. You may organize schedule activities out of sequence. To streamline critical path analysis, the schedule activities are reordered to make in sequence based on the predecessor-successor relation list. In short, 3 major data processing steps are involved. 1. Read schedule data. 2. Parse worksheet schedule data to complete myact array. 3. Organize activities in sequence. Read basis data and store all data of Gantt chart in AllAct. Beginning with AllAct and parsing predecessor and relationship logic, store activity data in myact, that include additional 7 data, successor data added. Store activity ID only, myID array, class, myClass array, and work package, myWorkPack. Predecessor-successor relationship of all activities are stored in P's list, array referring to myact array. Predecessors are defined on the worksheet. Multiple predecessors are separated by comma. Combined with relationship logic and time lag, activity predecessor and successor data are parsed. Predecessor-successor list, myList array, with elements. Predecessor. Successor. Predecessor period. Successor period. Equivalent fs time lag. Relationship logic. Original time lag as entered on the worksheet. Predecessor data elements appended to data table. Time lag equivalent to fs logic. Original type of relation. Original time lag. Successor data elements appended to data table. Time lag equivalent to fs logic for successor. Original type of relation for successor. Original time lag. Activity predecessors are used for forward calculation while backward calculation is based on activity successors. Basically, scheduling input are made in time sequence. Preceding activity is defined early and succeeding activity are defined next. Not vice versa. But due to the versatility of the spreadsheet, activities are not necessarily laid out in sequence on the worksheet. A custom function sequence activities reorders the activities in sequence, predecessor followed by successors. Recursion algorithm is adopted for this purpose. Ensure that the type of entered data are correct. Ensure uniqueness for activity ID. Ensure that predecessors are correctly defined. Date data is checked for validation using isDate function. Number data is checked for validation using isNumeric function. Activity duration should not be left blank. Uniqueness for activity ID is checked. Check whether predecessor refers to the defined activities only. Circular detection in predecessor-successor relation is made to prevent from circular reference. Early schedule calculated along forward pass through the schedule. Late schedule calculated along backward pass through the schedule. A critical path is determined with activities of zero float, difference between late schedule and early schedule. Early schedule is calculated along forward pass through the schedule. If an activity is to start, all its predecessors must be finished. This means that the earliest start date of an activity is equal to the latest early finish date of its predecessors. The early start, ES, of the activities can be calculated this way. The early finish is computed with ES already calculated taking into account the period. Late schedule is calculated along backward pass through the schedule, starting from the final activity. The latest finish date of a final activity is the earliest finish date of the final activity that is calculated using forwards pass calculation. An activity must finish before all its successors start. This means that latest finish date of an activity is equal to the earliest late start date of its successors. The late start, LS, is computed with late finish, LF, to be calculated using the backwards calculation equals LF period plus 1. The float is computed by comparing the earliest date and the latest schedule of the same activity. If the latest date is same as the earliest date, with zero float, it is not possible to delay the activity without delay in the project completion. Consequently, the activities with zero float are considered and defined as critical activities. Critical activities featured with zero float are highlighted in red. Run the procedure critical path analysis. The procedure calls CPA Gantt function which goes through forward pass, backward pass, and finally total float calculation. The results are returned to the worksheet. Section 9 discusses how to create schedule bars and relationship connectors. Early schedule with relationship connector. Critical activities highlighted. Late schedule, schedule bar without connector. Constraint, diamond. Progress, progress bar. Report line. 4 schedules are displayed using shapes of bar, connector, and diamond. 1. Early schedule, schedule bar with connector. In addition, schedule bar for critical activities is distinguished from that for non-critical activities. 2. Late schedule, schedule bar without connector. 3. Constraint, diamond. 4. Progress, progress bar. You can select your favorite color by using schedule basis Userform. Schedule bar chart generation is a good opportunity for modular code construction. The custom functions and procedures which every activity may have to run are: function act length, computing bar length in terms of the number of columns; function act position, locating a starting column of schedule bar; subbar draw to draw bar, extending act length from act position; subdiamond draw to draw diamond in a cell of act position; subconnector draw to draw connector from predecessor to the activity. In addition, sub-report line is to draw a vertical red line. Normalize worksheet format, delete all shapes, unfilter if filtered, and so on. Compute start column and the number of columns representing activity period. Draw schedule bar and diamond. Show relationship using connectors. A user form is to help view project overview and basis of your project Gantt chart. In addition, the user form is used to enter a reporting date to draw a vertical report line. Load and initiate a user form. Default report date is weekly cut-off date of today's date. Data type of report date is to be validated to enable OK button. Section 10 discusses project progress monitoring using Userform. Validate data and populate data on progress worksheet. Data roll up to Gantt chart. Draw progress schedule bar and progress percent bar. Progress monitoring is made based on work package. Detailed data for daily implemented work package associated progress are recorded on the progress worksheet. Data entry is established either using Userform or directly on the worksheet. The progress update is done instantaneously and interactively. Progress roll-up is performed and incorporated into the Gantt chart. To activate progress entry Userform, press an icon progress entry on the ribbon, or double-click a cell of the row you want to enter daily progress data. The Userform handles activity progress data to facilitate progress monitoring. 1. Data essential to progress recording are: reporting date, default is today's date. Work package, select one of existing work packages or enter new work package. Earned hours. Activity ID, select one of existing activities. 2. Reference overview of the selected activity ID. Planned start. Planned end. Planned hours. Cumulative actual hours. Actual start date. Load the Userform with: reporting date, default is today's date. Work package list. Activity ID list. All events on the progress worksheet should be disabled while working with Userform to prevent from clash. My progress reset procedure is called to this end. Date data, report date, and number data, earned hours, are validated. A work package can be selected from current work package list or a new work package can be entered. Activity ID which the work package belongs to should be one of activities defined in schedule data table. When an activity is selected, the procedure referenced data fill is called to view the overview of selected activity. OK button is enabled when entered data are valid and complete. Store progress data in an array. Pass the array data to and call the procedure update_progressSheet. Write the progress data on the worksheet. Call the procedure update Gantt to transfer new progress data to Gantt chart. Draw progress bar along the timeline. Display progress %bar emulating conditional format. Section 11 discusses daily progress input on the worksheet. Validate data and populate data on progress worksheet. Data roll up to Gantt chart instantaneously. Draw progress schedule bar and progress %bar instantaneously. This section, Section 11, discusses direct progress data input on the worksheet. You can create progress bar along timeline and progress %bar in Excel interactively. To enable the worksheet to be interactive, the worksheet event procedures are required. A class module is inserted to contain the event procedures. A class module can handle events of objects not exposed by Excel. Insert a new class module. 2. Set a name for this class module in the Properties window, MyProgress class. 3. In the class module, declare a public worksheet object with your object name, for example, MyProgressSheet, by using the withEvents keyword. Public withEvents MyProgressSheet as worksheet. 4. Declare the class module in the general section of standard module in order to instantiate the class module as an object. Dim MyProgC as new MyProgress class. 5. Link a worksheet object with the class module object. Sub MyProgress set. Set MyProgC.MyProgressSheet equals active workbook.worksheets, progress. End sub. 6. Call the procedure myProgressSet when you need to activate the event procedures contained in the class module. 7. Create worksheet event procedures that you'll use to refer to the declared worksheet object in the class module. 7.1. Double-click event procedure myProgressSheet before double-click. Trigger progress data entry Userform to show up. 7.2. Worksheet change event procedure myProgressSheet change. Enter for data, date, work package, earned hour, and activity ID, and the data are returned on the progress worksheet and used in the Gantt chart. The new data are aggregated to calculate actual start, end date, and cumulative progress in Gantt chart. Create progress bar along timeline by calling bar draw procedure. The bar draw procedure has been discussed earlier in section 9. Create progress percent bar, cumulative hours over total plan, in a single cell for cumulative hours by calling progress update on Gantt. Create progress percent bar, cumulative hours over total plan, in a single cell. Emulate Excel conditional format function. Section 12 discusses how to create CustomUI.xml file, which is required to tie controls in the new tab on the ribbon with program procedures. This section comprises: download Custom UI Editor for Microsoft Office. Install Custom UI Editor for Microsoft Office. Create CustomUI.xml file using the Custom UI Editor. Download Custom UI Editor for Microsoft Office. Google Custom UI. Go to Better Solution. Scroll down to find reference. Locate reference. Click download link and save zip file to your machine. Locate the downloaded file in your machine Office CustomUI.xlm and proceed to install it. Install Custom UI Editor for Microsoft Office. Click the MSI file Office Custom UI Editor Setup.msi. Follow the installation wizard as guided and click Next to go to Next. When you get installation complete message, click Close. You may notice that a new shortcut icon is on the desktop. Create Custom UI.xml file by launching the Custom UI Editor for Microsoft Office. Custom UI Editor is viewed. Open Gantt.chart.xlsm by clicking the Open button on the Custom UI Editor toolbar and navigating to the file. From the Insert menu, choose Office 2010 Custom UI part. This will add a Custom UI 14.xml entry under Gantt.chart.xlsm. Custom UI 14.xml is created. The Custom UI 14.xml is a newly added file to Gantt.chart.xlsm Excel file, which is a zipped collection of XML files. The RibbonX code used in this example is XML. Excel can read this XML and convert it into UI elements, such as tabs, groups, and buttons. XML consists of data between opening and closing tags, or, in some cases, within self-closing tags. The first line defines the schema in a custom UI tag. This tells Excel how to read the XML. The last line is the closing tag for the custom UI tag. CustomUI.xlm equals http schemas.microsoft.com Office 2009-07 CustomUI. CustomUI. Everything between these two tags is interpreted as RibbonX code by Excel. The next line, the ribbon tag, defines that you want to work with the ribbon. Its closing tag is the second to last line. The XML is hierarchical, just like the ribbon. The button tags are contained in the group tag, the group tag is contained in a tab tag, the tab tag is contained in the tabs tag, and the tabs tag is contained in the ribbon tag. Tags also contain attributes. The tab tag contains an IDMSO attribute that tells Excel which tab to use. Tab IDMSO equals tab data. A brief description of attributes. ID. A unique identifier for custom elements. Label. The text to be displayed for the control in the ribbon. Size. Button controls can be large, or normal. On action. The name of the VBA procedure to run when the button is clicked. Image MSO. The identifier of a built-in image. You can use built-in images on your custom buttons. Image MSO. You can press an icon image MSO on the ribbon to view a dialog. Locate image you want to return corresponding identifier. RibbonX code for Group 1 start with one button to call a procedure in standard module MD1 Gantt. Program start. RibbonX code for Group 2 with 5 buttons to call procedures in standard module MD1 Gantt. Schedule basis. Scheduling. CPA. Bar chart gen. Progress record. RibbonX code for Group 3 with one button to call a procedure in standard module MD1 Gantt. Reference image MSO. Click the Validate button on the toolbar. To make sure that the XML is valid, the editor will display a Custom UI is well formed message, if there are no errors. VBA responds to user actions using events. The ribbon uses a different technique, Callback Procedures. The buttons are tied to the VBA code via the onAction attribute. Callback procedures are created by Custom UI editor based on the tied procedures defined in the CustomUI.xlm. Copy and paste in the code module of Visual Basic Editor. Paste copied codes from CustomUI.xlm to the module MD1_Gantt. Section 13 discusses how to tie controls in new custom tab on the ribbon with programs corresponding callback procedures. Starting from the callback procedures copied from Custom UI editor, we can go ahead to complete required procedures. Main procedures to be complete should be called by the buttons linked via onAction attribute. One-to-one match is essential. Program start. Schedule basis. Scheduling. CPA. Bar chart gen. Progress record. Reference image MSO. Section 14 discusses how to complete xlsm program, how to convert into Excel Addin, how to install the Excel Addin and how to facilitate users' manipulation of the program including source code and stored data. This section comprises 1. Provide with your project name for VBA project. 2. Prevent others from modifying your source by providing with password. 3. Program title and description. 4. Compile VBA code. 5. Store your runtime data in sheet 1. 6. Create addin file.xlam. 7. Trusted location. 8. Install Excel Addin. 9. Accessing source data of Excel Addin. 10. Accessing stored data of Excel Addin. Default VBA project name is VBA project. For demonstration, give Gantt chart to the name in lieu of VBA. Choose Tools. Gantt chart properties. Click the Protection tab. and select the Lock Project for Viewing checkbox. Then enter a password, twice, and click OK. If yet to give the title and description for the program, reactivate Excel, and choose File Info to display the properties of the workbook. Then click Advanced Properties. Enter a brief descriptive title in the title field and a longer description in the comments field. Choose Debug on VBE toolbar. Select Compile. This step forces a compilation of the VBA code, and it also identifies any syntax errors so that you can correct them. You may need to read data at the runtime. Store data in a worksheet which program reads and writes at the runtime rather than to store in registry. The worksheet will be a part of Excel Addin. 1. In Excel, choose File. Save As. Browse to Excel displays its Save As dialog box. 2. In the Save As type drop-down list, select Excel Addin.xlam. 3. Click Save. A new Addin file is created, and the original xlsm version remains open. To set up a trusted location, follow these steps. 1. File. Options. Trust Center. 2. Press Trust Center setting. This activates the Trust Center dialog box. 3. Click the Trusted Locations button. This opens the Trusted Locations menu which shows you all the directories that are considered trusted. 4. Click the Add New Location button. 5. Click Browse to find and specify the directory that will be considered a trusted location. Install Addin. 1. Choose File then Options, and click the Addins tab. 2. Choose Excel Addins from the Manage drop-down list and then click Go. 3. Click the Browse button on the Addins dialog. 4. Locate and double-click the addin that you just created. The Addins dialog box displays the addin in its list and displays the descriptive information. 5. Click OK to close the dialog box. 6. The addin is installed. On the ribbon, a new tab named Gantt chart is created with all the controls you have defined. If you need to improve macro or update Userform to make better aesthetic, go to Visual Basic Editor and select your project Gantt chart. You need to enter your password. Default is Gantt chart. All the modules are exposed and accessible for your further improvement. If you want to access the data stored in a worksheet, select this workbook of your project in the Project Explorer. In the Project Properties view, set is Addin to false to view or modify contents on the worksheet. Be sure to set back to true for is Addin. We have discussed entire process to make an Excel Addin from scratch through 14 steps. Source code are discussed from procedural level rather than at the technical level. An example is a program intended to create a logical and interactive Gantt chart, deterministic. This program is complete and comprehensive in its entirety. You can download the Excel Addin program for your immediate use. If you want to modify to add functions or customize to your project, you can access the source code. Password is Gantt chart. You might notice already, there is one function included in the program but not discussed in details. This is related to image MSO. This allows to view all the image MSO of Excel and select your image to return the selected image's name for your convenient use. Lastly, thanks for your time to watch this video and hope that this would be of some use and help to you.